Al Jazeera journalists were killed in a targeted Israeli strike near Gaza City Al-Shifa Hospital. This and more in this newscast. We meet again today, the 12th of August 2024, in the Abakwa Television studios for the primetime newscast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining in. For presentation, I am Schneider Williams. Let's begin today with the 2025-2026 school year, where 1 month before the start of the school year, set for September 8th, the Minister of Secondary Education has shut down 154 private schools and teachers training colleges over poor hygiene, overcrowded classrooms, untidy environments, and failure to meet legal and administrative requirements. Staffman Sonka William now reports.
1 month before the start of 2025-2026 school year, set for September 8, the Ministry of Secondary Education has shut down 154 private schools and teachers training colleges over poor hygiene, overcrowded classrooms, untidy environments, and failure to meet legal and administrative requirements. Minister Nalova Lyonga said the crackdown targets clandestine schools operating without approval, urging parents to verify accreditations before enrolling their children. This is the third consecutive year of mass closures. Many schools closed in previous years reportedly resurfaced under new names and in new locations. While some parents have welcomed the MINISEC move, they call for clearer follow-up measures to ensure such schools remain closed and to prevent others from operating illegally. The ministry insists only institutions meeting infrastructure, staffing, and legal standards will be allowed to operate. The minister also urges families to favor institutions duly authorized by the state and invites them to consult the official list available on www.minisec.gov.cm or at the regional delegations.
In other news, Election Cameroon has officially launched a national call center accessible 24/7 at the toll-free number 1508 to offer citizens reliable information on voter registration, card issuance and retrieval, polling stations, locations, and electoral rights and duties. Dr. Eric Esouze, Director General of ELICAM, stated that the initiative aims to remove informational barriers that still hinder participation, particularly among young people, first-time voters, and women. The center will remain operational during the October 12th election night, supporting the institution's effort to enhance transparency and awareness. In communication, Orange Cameroon ordered to pay more than 500 million francs CFA to Cameroon artist-musician Ama Pierrot, recognized for his hit Ingratitude. Details with Non Kelly. On May 14, 2024, the Littoral Court of Appeal in Douala delivered a resounding verdict charging Orange Cameroon to pay more than 500 million francs CFA to the artist-musician Ama Pierrot, recognized for his hit Ingratitude. This sum, although far from the 96 billion francs CFA estimated by experts, marks a major turning point in the recognition and protection of copyright in Cameroon after more than a decade of legal battle. The case sheds new light on the practices of large companies vis-à-vis cultural creators and poses an essential question: at what price does commercial exploitation stop without consent? The origin of the dispute dates back to 2011, when Ama Pierrot discovered that her flagship work had been used as a call and ring indicator on the Orange Cameroon network from 2006 to 2017 without any authorization. A use which infringed not only his property rights but also his moral rights, sacrosanct in copyright. Indeed, the artist rightly emphasized that any use of music for advertising purposes must require express authorization. The synchronization of ingratitude with commercial messages without its approval constitutes a clear violation, thus distorting the integrity of the work. Despite a first conviction in January 2023 at 300 million francs CFA, the Court of Appeal showed rigor by increasing compensation, reaffirming the fundamental principle of respect for the rights of creators. Beyond the amount of compensation, it is a symbolic significance of this decision that is of concern. In an environment where Cameroonian artists are often confronted with the abusive appropriation of their work, this judgment could become a decisive precedent. He calls on multinationals for more responsibility and transparency in the exploitation of cultural works. However, Orange Cameroon does not intend to stop there and has filed a cessation appeal, leaving uncertainty as to the purpose of this case. The issue is therefore twofold. It is as much a question of financial reparation as of legal affirmation, a fight that artists must follow with vigilance. This case also reveals the difficulties of applying copyright in Cameroon, particularly in the face of economic behemoths, and highlights the urgent need for better institutional protection of creators. The judgment rendered constitutes a strong signal for both artists and economic operators. Exploiting a work without consent is no longer tolerated, and Cameroonian justice is ready to impose severe sanctions. It remains to be seen whether the Supreme Court will uphold this decision and definitively send a clear message, thereby protecting local creativity in the face of powerful commercial interests. Again, in other news on the politics, the Social Democratic Front SDF flag bearer Joshua Osei says all opposition candidates should rally behind him because SDF is solely capable of handling the Anglophone crisis and ending the Biya regime. Osei hasn't attended the meetings intended to unite the opposition as one, hasn't tabled the Anglophone crisis before the parliament, and came a distant fourth in the 2018 presidential election after CPDM, MRC, and PCRN. Cameroon today owes 7.7 billion francs CFA to Izakam, the main operator responsible for garbage removal in the country's major cities, a stagnant debt since June 2024, according to the Autonomous Sinking Fund. Samuel Wesley has details in the report.
Cameroon today owes 7.7 billion francs CFA to Izakam, the main operator responsible for garbage removal in the country's major cities. A stagnant debt since 2024 of June, according to the Autonomous Sinking Fund, in which this seriously compromises the company's ability to fully function in its mission, despite the reinforcement of the Teclov Sal company in certain towns. The situation remains critical. The streets are congested and citizens pay a high price between growing insanity conditions and health risk. In principle, it is the decentralized local authorities which must pay the bill for the services provided. But in practice, nearly 85% of funding relies on the public treasury that is running out of steam. The paradox is all the more striking since 2019, a special excise duty of 0.5% on imports has been introduced to finance waste collection. Except that today, no one knows where this money really goes to, even though it was collected by customs, leaving heavy suspicion of mismanagement and opacity. The city of Yaoundé alone requires an annual budget of 15 billion francs CFA to efficiently collect garbages, according to General Director of ISACAM, Jean-Pierre Mellet, a sum that the state requires a lot of work in engineering or guaranteeing even partially. In a context where the urban environment is deteriorating, this debt is becoming more than a financial problem. It poses an urgent question of governance and political priority. Faced with such an impasse, the entire waste management model in Cameroon seems to be running out of steam. The silence on the traceability of funds collected, the chronic inability to honor budgetary commitments, and the apparent indifference to the accumulations of garbage waste questions. To which extent should the situation be allowed to deteriorate before concentrated actions are taken and transparency are not taken?
Again in politics, Muslim imams are the latest group to meet Ferdinand Gongo, the Secretary General at the presidency, who has been under scrutiny over the past weeks for turning the Unity Palace into a campaign hall for President Paul Biya. The Islamic leaders, among them the Imam of the Boya Central Mosque, Mohammed Abubakar, pledged support for President Biya's candidacy, according to state television. In foreign news, protests and memorials have erupted worldwide and calls for accountability are growing after 4 Al Jazeera staff members were assassinated in an Israeli strike at Gaza. Staffman Sama Wesley gives us a report in details.
Also killed were freelance cameraman Momen Aliwa, 23 years old, and freelance journalist Mohammed Al-Khalidi, 37 years old. Gaza's government media office says at least 238 journalists have been killed since the Israeli war started in Gaza 2023. The latest killings have prompted outrage around the world. In Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank, Palestine filled the streets waving flags and carrying photocopies of the slain reporters. Hundreds rallied in Tunisia, demanding accountability for the attacks. Protests took place in Northern Ireland's capital, Belfast, and Republic of Ireland's capital, Dublin, where vigils were held in Berlin, Germany, and the Netherlands. Earlier demonstrations took place in Washington, D.C., as well as London, Oslo, and Stockholm. Elsewhere, Watansi said candles were lit for each journalist killed in Gaza, with particular attention given to Al-Sharif, one of the main journalists. Also, an Australian journalists union released a statement condemning the targeted killing of the Palestinian media workers this week and the killing of nearly 200 others. The Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, the largest organization representing journalists in Australia, said Al-Sharif's report brought to the world the reality of the horrors being inflicted by the Israeli government on the civilians of Gaza. The United Nations has not remained indifferent. The latest killings indicate journalists in war zones are constantly being threatened by security agents and warmongers.
In foreign news, a very rare rock from Mars, which fell in the Niger's desert in 2023, was sold at a big auction in New York for $4.3 million. The government of Niger says it might have been taken out of the country illegally and is now investigating. Professor Paul Sereno, who studies fossils in Niger, says the meteorite belongs to Niger and should be returned. The auction house, Sotheby's, says they followed all the rules. This case shows how meteorites, which come from space, are sometimes sold without clear laws protecting where they come from. Other countries like Morocco have faced similar problems. This news piece brings us to the end of today's edition of the Primetime Newscast on your #1 TV channel, Abakwa Television. This news was brought together by the entire news desk of Abakwa Television. The news was produced by Logan Brandon under supervision of the station's manager, King Wills. For presentation in the anchor, I am Schneider Williams. Thanks for staying tuned and keep watching Abakwa Television for more exciting programs. Good night.